If you spend any time in finance circles online, I would genuinely bet real money that you have come across at least one person telling you that prediction markets are the most reliable forecasting mechanism ever invented. This was because, unlike a journalist or a political commentator who can be spectacularly wrong about everything and still keep their job, the people betting on prediction markets have actual money on the line. That means they've got a financial incentive to be correct. The theory goes that the aggregate of all those bets should produce a more accurate picture of what's about to happen than any single expert could give you. And honestly, that's a reasonable argument. The math is solid. But here's the thing. That whole beautiful theory only holds up if the people placing bets are working with the same information as everyone else. The moment someone sits down at their laptop, logs into a prediction market, places a bet on an event that they already know is going to happen because they work for the agency that's about to make it happen, well, that's not forecasting anymore. That's something else entirely. Now, as a concept, prediction markets have been around for a while. But they really started pulling in mainstream attention when platforms like Polymarket began seeing serious trading volume, to the point where major publications and even some government analysts were citing these markets as meaningful signals for everything from election outcomes to interest rate decisions to whether or not a specific military conflict was going to escalate in a given month. The basic mechanic is simple enough. You pick an event, you decide whether you think it'll happen or not, you buy a contract that pays out $1 if you're right and 0 if you're wrong. So if the market thinks there's a 30% chance of something happening, those contracts trade at around 30 cents. If you buy them at 30 cents and the event happens, you collect $1. That means you've tripled your money. If you buy them at 30 cents and the event doesn't happen, you get nothing. The market is essentially a continuous real-time poll, where everyone's opinion is weighted by how much money they're willing to put behind it. Here's where things start getting interesting in a really uncomfortable way. In 2024, researchers and journalists tracking activity on Polymarket started noticing some genuinely strange patterns in the betting data. Where contracts tied to specific geopolitical and military events would see sudden and significant spikes in trading volume, sometimes hours or even days before any public announcement was made that would explain why anyone would be rushing to take a position. To be clear, unusual trading volume before a big announcement isn't automatically suspicious on its own. Markets move on rumors. Smart analysts make educated guesses that turn out to be right. That happens all the time and it's completely normal. But some of these movements weren't the kind of gradual drift you get when informed speculation is slowly filtering through a market. They looked much more like someone who already had the answer and was just trying to convert that knowledge into cash before anyone else caught up. And the payouts in some cases weren't small. We're talking about single wallets collecting hundreds of thousands of dollars on contracts that resolved in their favor almost immediately after the bets were placed. So who exactly was making these bets? This is where the soldier bet concept comes from. I want to be clear that this isn't some fringe theory somebody cooked up on Reddit. Actual reporting, including detailed investigations that looked at on-chain transaction data, found that at least some of the wallets generating these suspiciously timed returns had traceable connections to individuals with current or former ties to the United States military and intelligence communities. Now, in fairness, the blockchain is pseudonymous, not anonymous. That means you can see the transactions, but connecting a wallet address to a specific real-world identity requires additional work. Not every connection made in these investigations holds up under scrutiny. But the pattern of behavior itself, the timing, the size of the positions, the specific events being bet on was consistent enough across multiple incidents that researchers weren't just shrugging it off. You don't accidentally get that good at predicting classified military operations unless you've got access to information that the general public doesn't have, and probably never will. Let me give you a sense of the actual numbers here, because I think the scale of this matters. One of the most cited examples involved a wallet that placed a series of escalating bets on a specific geopolitical outcome over a short window of time, with the total payout when the contracts resolved coming in at just under $410,000. Now, $400,000 sounds like a lot, and it is, but what makes it more striking is the implied return on the initial capital, that in some of these cases represented a gain of somewhere between 300 and 600% over a period of days or sometimes just hours. If you were making returns like that in the stock market, the SEC would have you on a phone call by the end of the week. You'd be getting letters, there would be subpoenas. The enforcement machinery of financial regulation exists specifically to prevent people with non-public information from turning that information advantage into an unfair financial gain at everyone else's expense. But because prediction markets occupy this genuinely strange regulatory no man's land, that machinery doesn't really apply here. Not yet, anyway. Now, the reason this regulatory gap exists is worth spending a minute on. This was because it's not like Congress just forgot about prediction markets when they were writing financial laws. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission. That is the agency that has the most plausible jurisdiction over these kinds of instruments. Spent years in an ongoing legal battle with prediction market operators over whether these contracts constitute illegal gambling or legitimate financial instruments. For a long time, that ambiguity worked out pretty well for the platforms because it meant neither side could definitively shut them down while the question was still being litigated. Polymarket itself operated under a restricted model for American users for a significant period, technically barring U.S. citizens from trading on the platform. Although the ability to actually enforce hat restriction, when someone can just use a VPN and a crypto wallet, is, let's say, limited. Either way, the result of all this legal back and forth is that the normal insider trading framework governing equity markets was never written to cover this specific situation. That created a very convenient loophole for anybody sitting on non-public information and looking to make it pay. Similarly, it's worth understanding why military and intelligence personnel would be uniquely positioned to exploit this particular loophole, as opposed to, say, corporate insiders who already have perfectly good opportunities to commit insider trading on regular stock markets and somehow manage to do it at a depressingly consistent rate. The answer is that geopolitical and military events have historically been very difficult to bet on through conventional financial instruments. Sure, a major military escalation will move defense contractor stocks and oil prices, but those are slow, noisy, indirect signals where the causal chain between the event and the price movement involves a lot of intermediate steps and a lot of other variables that can obscure what you're actually betting on. Prediction markets are different because they let you make a direct, binary bet on the event itself. Did the operation happen? Yes or no. Did the conflict escalate? Yes or no. That directness is what makes them so valuable as forecasting tools. It's also exactly what makes them so attractive to someone who's already got a classified briefing sitting on their desk telling them what the answer is going to be. And look, I want to be fair here. This was because there are people who push back on the insider trading framing and argue that what these traders were doing was just very good analysis. Defense analysts, retired military officers, former intelligence contractors, these people exist. Some of them genuinely are better at reading geopolitical situations than the average person. There's nothing inherently wrong with someone profiting from expertise they built over a career. That's actually the ideal version of how prediction markets are supposed to work. The problem is distinguishing between someone who made a correct prediction because they're good at analysis versus someone who made a correct prediction because they've still got active relationships inside the agencies that make these decisions, and those relationships involve the flow of non-public operational information. One of those things is skill. The other one is a federal crime. And right now, the tools available to regulators to tell the difference between those two things in the context of prediction markets are, to put it charitably, not great. Here's what makes me genuinely angry about this. I say this as someone who thinks prediction markets are a legitimately useful tool that could make public forecasting better if they're designed and regulated correctly. The whole value proposition of these markets to an ordinary participant rests on the assumption that you're competing with other people who've got access to roughly the same pool of information that you have. You might be smarter, you might be more disciplined, you might have a better analytical framework, but the information playing field is at least nominally level. The moment you introduce participants who've got access to classified government intelligence, that assumption collapses completely. You're not participating in a forecasting market anymore. You're essentially gambling in a casino where some of the other players already know the outcome before the cards are dealt. And the really frustrating part is that those players aren't sitting in some offshore boiler room. Some of them are sitting in government offices, collecting a salary funded by taxpayer money, while simultaneously converting classified briefings into personal financial gain. The broader implications here go beyond just the specific cases that have been documented so far. If it becomes widely understood that prediction markets on geopolitical events are systematically exploited by insiders with information advantages, that knowledge will start affecting how the rest of the market behaves in ways that are actually pretty bad for the accuracy of these markets as forecasting tools. This is something that doesn't get talked about enough. If you're a regular sophisticated trader who's trying to make money on Polymarket by doing genuine geopolitical analysis, You start suspecting that unusual price movements on certain contracts are being driven by insiders rather than organic information aggregation. Your rational response is to stop trusting your own analysis and start pattern matching the behavior of the suspicious wallets instead. That means you're no longer contributing independent information to the market. You're just following what looks like informed money. And once enough people start doing that, the market stops being a forecast and becomes a signal amplifier for whoever has the best information to begin with. That in this case might very well be people with security clearances and a brokerage account. Now, there are a handful of different ways this could go from here. The CFTC could take a more aggressive stance and start treating prediction market contracts as financial instruments subject to the same insider trading rules that govern futures and equities. That would at least create a legal framework for prosecution, even if enforcement remained difficult in practice. Congress could pass specific legislation, though I wouldn't be holding my breath on the speed of that particular process, given that writing coherent laws about crypto-based prediction markets requires understanding both crypto and prediction markets. We're talking about Congress here. Or the platforms themselves could implement stricter identity verification requirements and position limits that make it harder to turn a single large bet into a six-figure payout without generating the kind of paper trail that makes regulators uncomfortable. None of these solutions are perfect. None of them are quick. And in the meantime, every time a contract on a classified military event resolves in favor of a suspiciously well-timed anonymous wallet, somebody somewhere is collecting money they earned, not through analysis or skill or any legitimate edge, but through information that was never supposed to be theirs to use in the first place,